look at the Week 7 NFL slate. Let's start with that Thursday night game. I talked about it yesterday. I love the Bengals, one of my favorite bets of the week. I'll give you guys 2 more points to kind of go off of what Nick was saying. But he was bringing up the point about how the Jets were how the Steelers were 2.5 3-point favorites on the road in New York in week 1, right? And now the Steelers are 5.5 against the Bengals. I talked about it yesterday, but just look at last week, right? Pittsburgh was a 6-point favorite at home against Cleveland. Whereas what this line is telling me, if this game was in Pittsburgh, the Steelers would be like a 7.5, 8-point favorite against the Bengals. It just doesn't make any sense. Also, another underrated part of this handicap, too. Keep in mind, Joe Flacco, before he was traded from Cleveland to Cincinnati, that was on a Tuesday, right? So Sunday after their game in London, he's back on the plane prepping for the Steelers. Early Monday, he's prepping for the Steelers, where on a short week, you don't get that normal prep. Joe has already kind of had it against Pittsburgh with the fact that he's watched film on the Steelers when he was a member of the Browns. So not only do I think there's line value, but I think Flacco kind of already preparing for Pittsburgh. As Nick mentioned, no turnover-worthy plays against that Green Bay defense and that pass rush. So Mike Tomlin, you want to bet him as a dog, especially within division. When he's on the road as a big favorite, especially in division, that's when we look to fade. I like Bengals spread. I like Bengals money line. I think they win that game. Then looking at Sunday morning in London, we got the Rams as a 3-point favorite over Jacksonville. Total in the game is 45. Nick liked the under in this matchup. I wanted to be on the Rams, right? Neutral site game, better coach, better quarterback, better defense. Kind of similar handicap to why I like Seattle last week against Jacksonville. But the Puka injury is a big deal for the Rams. I mean, he's leading the league in just about every receiving category. The Rams offense, when he got hurt, really struggled against the Ravens defense. And we know Jacksonville makes this trip to London every year, so they're used to it. Their routine is going to be much better than the Rams routine would have been. Again, the Jags are a team I want to fade just because of all the turnover luck that they have had. They weren't able to get a turnover against Seattle, and they end up losing that game. Rams, a very good offense, normally good of taking care of the football. I would still probably lean Rams -3, but don't know if it's going to be as big a bet, certainly as it would be if Puka was out there. Getting into Sunday's slate, Bears a 5.5-point favorite at home against New Orleans. It would be Saints or pass for me. I'm waiting to see if this line will go up even more because the line right now is the same as the look-ahead was before the Bears had the upset win over Washington. So I think it's getting priced in a little bit that, again, the Bears go from a 5.5-point dog, win that game outright, revenge game after the Hail Mary against the Commanders last year. But you know, a lot of people are going to be on the Bears in Survivor this week. It's the easiest game they've had up to this point. Like, there are a lot of things, and the Bears are not a team that is used to being this big of a favorite, right? If they're a favorite, they're usually a small favorite, or they're a pick'em type game, or they're usually an underdog. It's not often you see Chicago as a 5.5, 6-point favorite. And we keep saying it about the Saints every week, man. I know they only have one win, but they are competitive, and they have been keeping it close with a lot of teams. So waiting to see if this goes up. If it just ends up staying at 5.5, I will end up being on the Saints. I think the Bears do probably win, but certainly would not shock me if the Saints pull the upset. Browns and Dolphins, I like Cleveland. I'd probably look at them -2.5 against the Dolphins. I think anything under 3 is a nice bet here with the Browns. Nick brought up a great point, how tough Cleveland's schedule has been up to this point. All the great teams, quarterbacks, offenses that they have faced. That defense is one of the tops in the NFL. And these are the kind of games, too, with struggles, right? When he goes on the road and he has to play outdoors in natural grass, the offense just isn't the same. And his noodle arm at times and his immobility against this Browns defense, I think is going to be rough. So I like Cleveland here. Dolphins team total under might be a nice look as well. Patriots-Titans, super fascinating game. New England favored by 7 on the road at Tennessee. Total is 42.5. This game is giving me big-time vibes to what Green Bay and Dallas was on Sunday night, right? When everybody thought, oh, man, you got the Packers with Micah Parsons back in Dallas. They're going to absolutely kill them by 40. I love betting against those narratives. When people kind of spot out like a revenge narrative and they think that team is just going to absolutely stomp on their throat, kind of similar to Bama and Vandy, right, a couple weeks ago when people are like, oh, it's a revenge game. Bama's going to absolutely kill them. Vandy hung with them the entire way. I kind of see this game going the same way. Callahan's the worst coach in the NFL. Getting him out is a huge upgrade for Tennessee, no doubt. Now, their team still isn't very good, but again, third straight road game for New England and another team that's really not used to being this big of a favorite. So the fact that, Vrabel's back in Tennessee, everybody just thinks they're going to absolutely throttle them. I would probably look at the Titans, and I wouldn't be surprised, man, if Tennessee maybe pulls off an upset in that game. You guys know I like the Raiders this week against the Chiefs. That line's actually up to 12, so if you haven't betted already, you're getting a better number than the 11.5. I know the Raiders are terrible. I know Geno's been awful. It's a fade of Kansas City, though. And these are the kind of things that we look at in the NFL. You guys know I love my situational spots. You're just not going to get up every week at the highest point for the same team, right? The Lions are not going to treat this game against the Raiders on Sunday at 1 o'clock like they did for the Lions on Sunday night, or like they did for the Eagles in the Super Bowl rematch, or when the Ravens came to town. They're just not. They're humans at the end of the day. This is kind of the game they know that they can coast and they can just skate by. They just have to win. And we know Kansas City's great at doing that, winning games and not covering spreads. I think this is one of those. I like the Raiders plus the points. Eagles-Vikings, super interesting game. Philly down to a 2-point favorite. Total is 43.5. Minnesota's coming off a bye week. The Eagles the last couple of years, it feels like when they're rolling and they're winning, they don't stop winning. But when they're struggling and losing, they don't stop losing. It feels like a good bounce back spot for them. We'll see if McCarthy's back in the lineup going up against that Eagles front. Jalen Carter should be back for Philadelphia, but certainly questions about that offense. Saquon hasn't really been able to get going. The passing offense certainly needs some work. The new offensive coordinator has not been good for Philadelphia. I'll end up staying away from the game. If I had to bet it, though, I think I probably would lean towards Minnesota. And then finally, Carolina on the road is a 2-point favorite against the Jets. I think New York gets their first win of the season. Carolina is 3-3, and the Jets are 0-6. But think about the fact that the Jets could have 3 wins this season. Could have beaten Denver on Sunday. They could have beaten Tampa earlier in the year, and they also could have beaten the Steelers to kick off the season. Now, they didn't. But even though they're 0-6, they have been more competitive than I think people give them credit for. And also Carolina, they're a decent team at home. You get them away from home, it might be the worst team in the NFL. Think about Carolina's data points on the road this season. Got smoked in Jacksonville, smoked in New England, and we're getting smoked in Arizona for 3 quarters, right? They are a terrible road team. The Jets are 0-6. It's highly unlikely they're going winless this season. There are going to be only so many games where they really feel like they can win. This is one of them. Max effort from New York on Sunday. I like the Jets to win the game. The afternoon slate between the Giants and the Broncos. Denver is 7-point favorite at home. Total in the game is 40. No play for me in this game. I know a lot of people like the Giants, especially at the number. I just worry that the last time we saw New York off of a big win, they didn't handle it very well against New Orleans when they turned the ball over 5 times. And yes, Denver is coming back from London, but that defense going up against Jackson Dart and that Giants offense, I really think could cause some issues. The Eagles are just, as great of a win as that was for the Giants, the Eagles offense is a mess. Their defense, especially on the back end, isn't very good. Broncos have a good O-line that can neutralize that pass rush and a very good defense with a very good secondary. So I think matchup-wise, it's not great from New York. It does feel a little easy to take them plus the points against Denver. That's going to be a pass for me. I do like the Chargers minus 1.5 against the Colts. I was going back and forth on this game, but I do like LA, and I think the line is telling you to take the Chargers as well. Colts, if the season ended today, would be the number 1 seed in the AFC. They have been playing awesome, but I think we could start to see some regression a little bit from Indianapolis. They played the easiest schedule in the NFL so far up to this point. Arizona nearly upset them on Sunday. Now they got to travel out to the West Coast and take on a Chargers team that is banged up. But I'm hoping Joe Alt can play in this game. They get some guys back on defense. It's just a Harbaugh spot for me, and I trust Harbaugh to have the Chargers ready, and I think they win that game. So I like LA minus 1.5. I also like the Commanders as short road favorites on the road against Dallas, bouncing back from that Monday night loss against the Bears. Anytime you get a team in the NFL that loses at home and then they go on the road the next week, always situational kind of spots that I look to back. Dallas, they've been playing everybody close this season, right? Whether they won those games or lost those games, they play everybody close. Feels like Dallas is an excellent teaser leg this week. If you want to tease them up to +8, +8.5, I think that's a really good option as well. But I do think Washington is going to be able to win this game. I'd probably also bet the over, too. That total is 55. I think that's the highest we've gotten so far this season. Dak's playing an MVP level. The offense has been awesome. And Jaden Daniels, now that third game back from injury, I think he plays much better. So I think it's a high-scoring game, and I would look at Dallas in a teaser, but I like Washington to win the game. Packers and Cardinals. If we can get Arizona +7, I'm going to be on the Cardinals in this game. Green Bay, two totally different teams when you get them at Lambeau and when you get them on the road. So far, the two data points that we've had for the Packers when they've gone on the road against the Browns and the Cowboys as big favorites have not been great. Jordan Love has not been all that good this season as well. And Arizona, they've lost 4 in a row, right? They're desperate to get back in the win column, and I like backing the Cardinals as a big underdog. I don't want them as favorites. I don't want them when the point spread is tight. But when you can get them at big numbers like we did against Indy and like we're getting them here, that's when I like Arizona. Hoping we get a 7 in that game. Sunday Night Football, Falcons and Niners feels like another good teaser leg here with Atlanta +8. I want to bet San Francisco because they're coming off a tough loss to Tampa. Atlanta's coming off that big primetime win against the Bills. It's a short week. They got to travel across the country. But you cannot understate the Fred Warner injury for San Francisco. One of the best defensive players in the NFL, and he is everywhere on that defense. So not only now have you lost Bosa, but you've also lost Fred Warner. So we'll see what Robert Saleh and that defense looks like. I kind of just want to wait and see against Penix, Bijan, and this offense. I've not been impressed with what I've seen from Atlanta on the road this season, losing 30-0 to Carolina. Against Minnesota, Penix really did nothing. It was all about the run game and the defense. So Atlanta's been another one of these teams, has not been good on the road, but with the injuries that San Francisco has, and especially Fred Warner, that game is a stay away for me. And then on Monday night, 2 games that I do like. I like the Lions -4.5, and I like the Texans +3.5 as well. Dan Campbell, 11-0 against the spread in his last 11 off of a straight-up loss. You want a team that bounces back after they lose? It is Detroit. And what is right now the weakness with Detroit? It's all the injuries that they have in the secondary. Well, Tampa Bay is on like their 4th, 5th, and 6th string wide receivers. Even though Baker is playing out of his mind, the one area you can really attack this Detroit defense, don't know if Tampa's going to be able to do that successfully. And how about this for a regression candidate? On Sunday, Tampa Bay, they're 5-1 this season. That was the first time they've taken a kneel down to end a game. So tells you they've kind of been playing with fire, and against Detroit off a loss, I'll take the Lions. I'll also take Houston +3.5. You guys know, Seattle at home, we're going to fade them. Houston off of a bye week, going on the road in Monday Night Football, very similar to the situation we just saw with the Bears against the Commanders. I'll back Houston plus the points against Seattle.